Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Happening in Swtor. This is episode 2 for Monday the 14th of May. My name is Haraset, and this week we're going to kick off with some more updates and news and such. Pretty much, I left off the last episode that I was talking quite a bit about 1.3 and what to expect. Some more information did show up on that, specifically around the augmentation that's meant to be coming in. One of the interesting bits of news is that it doesn't sound as good as I initially thought. It's a bit disappointing. Pretty much, the developers have answered quite a few questions on what will happen with these, and to put it in context, they're not going to be as simply crafted as I initially thought they would be. What's going to happen is now that they're implementing the augments as an add-on, but to do that, you have to actually craft 10 pieces of gear, regular gear, and then disenchant them or re-engineer them. And you know, this is one of those, why are you doing that? But yeah, apparently the augment kits will also be tiered, as in they will be affected by your level. How they will be affected is not really explained just yet, but more or less one can assume that it will have a level requirement. This will only be usable on level 30 gear, this one will be usable on level 50 gear, etc. So that's pretty much that. The augment materials, like I said, are actually dropped from disenchanting, and then after that you just put them in and getting brand new augments, more or less. The next point that we'll jump onto there was the fact that they did put out the community Q&A for May the 11th. Now, this was literally just after I released the last episode, and pretty much they answered quite a few questions on some non-specific issues, is what I'd like to say. The questions that they generally picked wouldn't be something that I would have jumped out to answer myself. I'll just go into a couple of them there. One of the questions they picked here was that this came in from a user called Dewey, and it says, we locked companion specs. Some of us feel that we're being forced to use specific companions versus choosing them for their personality and looks. Is there in the works kind of feature to mitigate this issue, like any companion kits to change it? This is one of those questions. Of all of the questions that are possibly being picked, why on earth do you feel the need to answer this one? I mean, companions in BioWare, yes, the answer is pretty much what I expected. They've always been their own background. I mean, you only have to look at Mass Effect and other games like that to see that all of the characters usually had a very specific set. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, even going back in time. And they pretty much take the same approach with this. I mean, as much as I would like to say that the companions are a big thing, I think a better question would have been to answer, why are companions useless at endgame? I mean, this is something, you know, that you could push. Now, you could turn around and say, can I have more quests for my companions at endgame? You know, little things that allow more interaction. We all have this ability on all of our ships, for example, to summon all of our companions to, you know, a room on the ship to have a chat with them. I play a Sith Warrior, and that is completely useless. I've never used it once in the entire game yet. It's on my ship. I know the Sith Inquisitor has used it quite a few times during the story. But why isn't there a way to, like, you know, throw that into the game? Or is there something to be expected? I think that generally would have been a stronger question to answer in that regard. But I'll move on. I'll cover some of the other questions are actually okay. One of them that caught my attention was that they were asked why they removed the NPCs from the PvP Warzone, stopping them from being sold. And it's interesting taking it, because I wasn't actually aware of this. Pretty much a number of players would queue for a quick vendor repair and then leave the match to go back to whatever else they were doing. Now that is brilliant. I should have thought of that, but I didn't. Pretty much that was the sole reason they caused the nerf. Now, instead of them actually just taking the repair option off, they said it was just outside of their technical specs at the moment. So as soon as that's in, we'll probably have the vendors back. Any other questions that quickly popped up there that might have caught my attention was alacrity. This is one of the stats in games. Now, I think I covered this a little bit in the Path to the Pro Side series, and what I was turning around and saying, you know, it pretty much increases haste, and I was curious to see how this would go into the game, but apparently it hasn't been used at all. I pretty much know every class just laughs at this stat when they see it. I was in a raid there the other day, and this trinket dropped from the M boss, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh, it's alacrity, eh?" Yeah, that's a pretty useful stat right there. And it was, it's one of those scenarios where you can't really find its use. I mean, there are quite a few sites like Swtor.com, which covers quite a lot of the theory crafting and DPS mechanics, and they put all the math together, and you can just find how useless this ability is. Hopefully in the future they will probably bring it back in and see how that goes. They agree at the moment that they are finding ways to improve the alacrity, to hope that will work in a future game update. The rest of the questions there that I did have a read through, they weren't exactly as strongly interested. A lot of them seem like personal responses to players, which is perfectly fine. I would still like to hear something more on what the hell's happening with the community. Can't you sense at this point that something's wrong with the force? But I shall move on. I just want to quickly cover some small aspects in regards to people requests. Combat, alright, or not combat, Marauder guides was one of them. Pretty much I want to have a look at the Marauder guiding. I've been thinking about ways to do this now. Pretty much the path to the Pro Side series was bringing in all of these, keybinds and even some combat aspects. And I went through all of the specs and combat and PvP usefulness of the class. But to push it even further, I'd have to go into PvE. Now, at the moment, I am raiding with a quite strong guild on my server. And I should be able to get some more footage out, hopefully, of some of the raids. And what I can do is provide some more information on how to gear your Marauder, so it is probably best. That's probably the next guide I will push into, but I can't give a deadline just yet on that because I have a lot of projects to work on, but it's something I will go for. But that's it for this episode, guys. Like I said in the previous episode, I would like to be able to do a mailbox section, answer any questions or comments from you guys, so be sure to send me some comments or questions, or you can obviously send me an email at offtimegamer@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to dedicate a section to responding to any emails and so forth. Of course, be sure to subscribe, like, favorite, and all that good stuff, and I will see you next time.